What if I revealed to you that more than 100 years ago, a man shut his eyes, slipped into a trance, and perceived the world as it would be in 2100? This wasn't merely a dream or an illusion. It was a prophecy so striking and so frightening that it remained concealed for many years. He envisioned floods engulfing whole cities, a transformed coastline carving out a new America, and a spiritual awakening that would split humanity into two distinct paths, one leading to ruin and the other towards redemption. This isn't a work of science fiction. This represents the genuine predictions made by Edgar Cayce, often referred to as the sleeping prophet. What he envisioned for our planet's future may upend your beliefs, test your understanding of faith, and compel you to confront a question many would rather avoid. Are we already experiencing the onset of his prophecy? If you're intrigued, turn off your doubts and seek the truth. Should you have the courage to confront what's ahead, watch this video all the way through, and feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. I've gone through each one and I'll highlight yours with a heart. Additionally, please support this channel's growth by subscribing now. It truly has an impact. It all started with whispers, soft, nearly overlooked, hidden away in old books and tattered manuscripts. Yet those who took the time to read carefully, who listened not just with their ears, discovered something remarkable. Edgar Cayce, the individual who offered healing through his words and predicted events well in advance, had envisioned a period far beyond his lifetime. The year was 2100, and what he foresaw was not merely another segment of history. It represented a culmination, a pivotal moment. The instant when humanity would confront its destiny. Cayce never resorted to grandiose language or theatrics. His expressions were straightforward and unembellished, yet they held a significance that was undeniably profound. As Cayce lay in a self-induced state of trance, he recounted visions of the earth splitting apart. Oceans surged and America fractured. He mentioned cities that had not yet come into being. Regarding changes in power that seemed ludicrous back then, he envisioned a future in which machines possessed intelligence, humans would live past a century, and ailments would disappear, only to be succeeded by spiritual malaise. However, it was his remarks about the planet, our home, that truly unsettled those who listened. Cayce suggests that by the year 2100, the world's geography will be entirely transformed. Parts of California will be underwater along the east coast of the United States. This area will vanish. A new landmass is expected to emerge in the Pacific, while Russia will rise to prominence as the beacon of hope globally. Additionally, the magnetic poles, which scientists are currently studying and discussing, will move, resulting in chaotic shifts in global climates. Cayce's predictions come not from a scientific perspective, but rather as if he were a herald, conveying a message that feels as though it originates from a higher source, serving as a warning. What's even more unsettling is that many of Cayce's predictions have already started to come true. The rising seismic activity along the New Madrid Fold, bizarre weather fluctuations worsening annually, and the polar ice caps melting are all signs. Today's news headlines seem like mere annotations in Cayce's records, yet only a handful of people are aware. You still cling to disbelief because accepting it would imply we lack control. What lies ahead isn't merely transformation, it's a reckoning. Cayce's foresight encompassed not just the physical realm, but also the spiritual one. He discussed a kind of separation that he referred to as a spiritual sorting, suggesting that the calamities were not punishments, but rather catalysts. These occurrences were designed to awaken individuals, compelling them to choose between evolving their consciousness or remaining in ignorance. He cautioned against false prophets, the rise of technology over wisdom, and a society fixated on materialism while overlooking the needs of the soul. Does this ring a bell? Cayce didn't merely alert us to potential Earth movements. He emphasized the consequences of failing to change, of not reconnecting with divine principles, service, and love. He articulated his thoughts clearly regarding what he termed the shift, which was not just a change in geography or climate, but a transformation in human consciousness. He envisioned a time ahead in which individuals would possess enhanced senses, extending beyond mere perception to encompass empathy. A period would arise when souls would rapidly reincarnate, opting to return in groups to assist in the healing of the planet. Cayce spoke of a new wave of children, born in the aftermath of significant upheaval, who would embody timeless wisdom within contemporary forms. According to him, these children wouldn't merely adjust to their surroundings, they would actively reconstruct them. They would recall truths that had been hidden for ages and transform the human story from one of conquest to one of collaboration. Yet this optimistic outlook came with a caveat. Cayce expressed that should humanity reject this transformation and resist the urge for spiritual awakening, the planet would react forcefully, not from a place of vengeance, but out of necessity. He perceived the Earth as a living entity, weary of bearing our ignorance. In his view, the Earth acted as a mirror, reflecting back our violence, corruption, and environmental devastation, amplified in the form of floods, fires, and famines, each a manifestation of our internal turmoil. What truly unsettled people wasn't the destruction Cayce portrayed, but the timeline of these events. He didn't imply that these scenarios might occur. Rather, he stated them as inevitable. He claimed they would. He expressed this with conviction, resembling someone who had already viewed the film while the rest of us were merely experiencing the preview. And when he mentioned the year 2100, it wasn't just an ambiguous hint. It was a ticking clock, a final destination. By then, humanity would have either transformed or been destroyed. Now, as we stand in 2025, we must consider, are we headed in the right direction? Cayce's predictions extend beyond mere geography. They encompass morality and the evolution of the soul. He asserted that being spiritually prepared is significantly more crucial than merely surviving physically. Ultimately, the true conflict would not lie between countries or belief systems, but within our own selves. He asserted that each individual would encounter a pivotal moment, a trial of their values, a confrontation that would compel them to decide between fear and trust, as well as between self-interest and kindness. Although calamities would inevitably arise, he stressed that those who held to elevated ideals would find protection, not merely in a physical sense, but on a profound, eternal level. Cayce suggested that true survival wasn't achieved by seeking refuge in shelters, but rather by embodying light in an increasingly dim world. He didn't provide a way out. Instead, he presented a chance for change. He envisioned a reality in which destruction gave rise to understanding, where confusion created insight, and where what seemed like a conclusion was genuinely a new beginning. Although Cayce frequently communicated through metaphors, he was strikingly precise regarding this prophecy. He depicted New York as submerged. He mentioned that Atlanta and certain regions of the Carolinas would transform into coastlines. The Great Lakes would drain into the Gulf of Mexico. Nevada's deserts would regain their fertility, while regions previously deemed secure would face devastation from severe weather, earthquakes, and floods. His intent in sharing these visions was not to inspire fear, but rather to equip people for what might come. According to his perspective, individuals who are spiritually aware will find guidance. They will understand their path and the actions they need to take. Although many in the world regard prophecies as mere superstition, there is an eerie accuracy to Cayce's predictions. Even before concepts like climate change or tectonic shifts made their way into the news, he had already been articulating these phenomena. Long before the advent of artificial intelligence or digital currencies, he predicted an era when machines would dominate trade and communication. However, even before the global tensions started to create the rifts we witness today, Cayce envisioned nations experiencing decline and collapse not through warfare, but through a loss of spiritual integrity. The most alarming aspect of Cayce's foresight isn't the natural disasters like floods or fires. It's the quiet of those who turn a blind eye to the warnings. The quiet of a society too preoccupied with convenience and technology to heed the alerts surrounding it. Cayce was convinced the truth is never concealed. It's simply not sought after. He maintained that the understanding necessary to endure what lies ahead has always been accessible, not through politics or science, but through age-old wisdom, prayer, meditation, and harmonizing the spirit with the Creator. He proclaimed that a transformative age would commence by the year 2100, but this would only happen if humanity truly deserved it. It would not come from wealth or authority, but rather from moral integrity, humility, and togetherness. The significant threat, as Cayce cautioned, was not the fury of the planet, but rather human arrogance. This arrogance fosters the illusion of invulnerability, leading people to believe that spiritual laws are irrelevant to them. He referred to this as the ultimate deception, suggesting it could ensnare even the most enlightened, with many asserting they possess the truth, while only a select few actually do. It would embrace it. Nowadays, while we navigate our devices and debate reality, Cayce's message holds greater significance than ever. The year 2100 may seem distant, yet the choices we make today are shaping the journey toward it, one that could result in renewal or destruction. Cayce didn't provide specific deadlines for us to tally the days. Instead, he presented them as benchmarks for assessing our progress, our development, and our commitment to recalling our true selves. Cayce also cautioned about the risk of false awakenings. He predicted a time when spirituality would be commercialized, where hope would be marketed without genuine embodiment, and where truth would be distorted by algorithms, blurring the line between faith and illusion. While he did not oppose technology, he warned that as machines took the place of meditation and screens replaced moments of quiet, the soul would begin to weaken. He envisioned a future in which people would lose their connection to nature, to one another, and ultimately to their own selves, leading to a point where the earth, as a living entity, would begin to react. He stressed that the events we label as natural disasters are often spiritual messages. The earth responds not only to our physical deeds, but also to our collective energy. Emotions like hate, fear, and greed do not merely influence politics. They disrupt the fundamental equilibrium of nature, in which everything is interlinked. Cayce emphasized that the restoration of the earth begins with the healing of the heart. He did not portray salvation as something to be pleaded for. Instead, he described it as a state we need to embody, a frequency we should consciously choose to resonate with, because only in this way can we endure the transformation. Not by retreating, but by aligning with our diverse approaches by the year 2100. We are starting to witness the signs of the world Cayce envisioned: rising sea levels, unprecedented heat waves, unexpected earthquakes. People can sense it, even if they can't articulate it. There's a palpable tension in the atmosphere, a worldwide sense of unease, a deep-seated awareness that something significant is approaching. Yet the lingering question is, are we paying attention, or have we already missed our chance? Cayce held the belief that it's never too late. Even in the final moments, a single individual in tune with the divine could elevate the energy of countless others. He asserted that prayer holds power, love can heal more swiftly than any treatment, and genuine spiritual unity has the ability to postpone or even alter the most disastrous outcomes. He wasn't instilling fear. Rather, he was laying out a path based on choices, and that choice lies with you now. So how will the world appear in 2100? Will we witness Cayce's vision of enlightenment, a fresh society emerging from spiritual growth rather than mere survival? Or will we observe his warning come to life, with oceans engulfing cities, landscapes transforming, and a fractured humanity still pursuing illusions, while the true treasure was within all along? The solution isn't found in the future. It's rooted in how you choose to respond to this message at this very moment. Edgar Cayce never considered himself exceptional. He frequently mentioned that the ability he possessed was accessible to anyone willing to still their thoughts and heed their soul. He believed that we all serve as conduits, vessels for something greater, and he maintained that prophecy was not about dictating the future, but about inspiring choice. That's why he refrained from selling fear and instead shared accountability. The reality is that the year 2100 is not a deadline, but a reflection. It shows what we have embraced and what we have overlooked. It's not solely focused on what is to come, but also on who we will have become by that time. Cayce's vision of 2100 wasn't entirely bleak. He also discussed hope. He foresaw thriving spiritual communities where individuals coexist harmoniously with nature, cities fueled by renewable energy, led not by politicians, but by people of consciousness who prioritize service above self. He envisioned educational systems founded on morals and intuition, technology designed to elevate the spirit rather than dull it. Most importantly, he predicted that after suffering and collapse, there would be a rebirth, ushering in a new golden age. However, this transformation wouldn't come effortlessly. It would require humility, be shaped by loss, and be claimed by those prepared to evolve rather than merely survive. Now more than ever, the world is divided between truth seekers and comfort seekers, between those who numb themselves and those who awaken. Cayce perceived this division long before it materialized. He didn't urge us to panic, but instead encouraged us to prepare, not with bunkers or supplies, but with soulfulness, readiness, forgiveness, courage, and love. Ultimately, survival does not rest with the strongest or the wealthiest. It lies with those most in alignment, the most grounded in truth. If you are watching this now, you are part of this prophecy. Your presence here is no coincidence. If this message has reached you, it's because your soul is searching, perhaps even remembering what Cayce taught us, that we each hold a spark of the divine, that the light we seek exists within us already, and that the future is not something we enter into, but something we craft, choice by choice, thought by thought, breath by breath. If you feel this message resonates with you, don't let it stop here. Share it, leave a comment below about which part moved you the most, and I will read and highlight the most impactful ones with a heart. If you wish to help spread this message further, subscribe to this channel now and join a community committed to waking up, not tomorrow, nor in 2100, But right now,